Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars. Topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Welcome in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, right here on the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Brice, and obviously we have another jam-packed show for you today. Obviously, we're going to change it up a little bit with the format of the show. We're not going to do 6 segments of 10 minutes, we're going to do 4 segments of 15 minutes. So we're going to kind of crunch things together here to give you more content and a much more of a higher dosage before going to breaks or taking breaks or anything like that. So obviously that's what we're going to be doing here on the podcast. Obviously today we have another jam-packed show for you today. We're going to talk about everything that's been happening, Orlando, would it affect title hopes, the Players Coalition, Detroit getting a new GM from the Oklahoma City Thunder. We also have Ethan joining the show today, giving his thoughts on what's happening with LeBron, Kyrie, Players Coalition, restarting everything. Whose side is he on? I'm going to ask him all that. I'm also going to ask him if title hopes could be affected this year. And we're going to talk about a ring that was designed to help indicate or tell or basically give a heads up on COVID-19 symptoms for players. We're going to talk about all of that. We're also going to talk about Dwight Howard's statement that was released, him talking about how certain players are afraid to come out and say anything because of their position. We're also going to talk about the Kevin Durant, Kendrick Perkins beef, as Kevin Durant calls Kendrick Perkins a sellout. We're also going to talk about the restart protocol and how they say it could potentially jeopardize some jobs around the NBA. So we're going to talk about all that today, here and more on the podcast. Obviously, if you enjoy what you listen to, don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to, or like, or leave a review. Anything like that, we'll really appreciate it. Really help us out. So if you got all that down, I think let's get into it. So first thing I want to talk about with you guys. Okay, so obviously here's the thing. Stay with me here. So the thing about everything you've heard, there are going to be players that don't come to Orlando. We pretty much know with some of the resistance, especially with Kyrie and everything, certain players will not be coming to Orlando, Florida. I think we know that. So the question is, depending on who doesn't come, could it affect who actually could win the championship this year in the NBA? Could missing a couple of key role players be the difference between a team winning and losing the championship? The reason why I say that is, for example, if you think about the Los Angeles Lakers, right now, Avery Bradley is on Kyrie's side. So it seems like if that's the case, Avery Bradley will not be there. And Avery Bradley is a starter. He's a starter for them. And then Dwight Howard seems like he will also not come. So that's 2 people right there from the Lakers who are key contributors to their team, might I add, who have already kind of basically come out and said, I'm not going to Orlando. So obviously the Lakers will have a chance to replace them, but they're not going to probably get somebody they feel like can do what they do. And we don't know, maybe Jerry Dudley, we don't know if anybody else might not want to come. Now obviously the Lakers will still have LeBron, and they'll still have AD, so they'll still have their top guys, but will losing those middle guys change things? If you think about the Clippers, you really haven't heard anybody saying they're not going to come. It seems like the entire Clippers team is coming. Kawhi, Paul George, Patrick Beverley, Montrezl Harrell, Lou Williams. I haven't heard any pushback from the Clippers camp. So if they're all coming, they're going to be fully ready to go. Remember, the Lakers and Clippers aren't that far apart, so maybe losing those 2 players could be the difference between the Lakers being able to beat them and lose. But it also depends on injuries and COVID-19 and everything like that, obviously, because this season has a lot of questions that we won't have answers to till later. Then you have the Milwaukee Bucks so far, who's, like I said, from them we know they're coming. I mean, listen, June 24th is the deadline for them to tell the teams, hey, we're coming to Orlando, we ain't. So we'll know what the full rosters are. And so the question I posed was that could it affect title hopes? I've been hearing a lot of things recently about Houston, because Houston, it seems like everybody, as far as we know, is coming back. Now, Houston's always been that team that's been second tier, top second tier, kind of can compete with first tier, but can't get over the hump. Now imagine if the Lakers lost some guys, the Clippers maybe lose some guys potentially, and because those are known as the two top teams in their conference, could Houston maybe potentially have a path now to get to the finals? It kind of makes you kind of bring up some questions and makes you think, is there a chance that we could have a team that we never thought had a chance or as much of a chance be in the champ competition or in the last round at the end because of the fact that COVID-19 has removed some players. You don't know who's going to get hurt. You don't know who's going to get COVID. So obviously with all that could make them be more title contenders. Even for Utah, potentially. Even for Denver. It's really interesting to see how it could affect things. Eastern Conference wise, I mean, like I said, we haven't heard everybody who's not going to come out, so we'll know when the roster dates come. But even in the Eastern Conference, it's already wide open. I mean, Milwaukee's known as the most dominant team, but there's still questions if Milwaukee can actually get the job done. We don't know how this is going to change their situation. We don't know how this is going to affect their situation. We don't know how it's going to maybe somewhat converge or make their situation different. It definitely adds intrigue. It definitely adds a different spin to things, I would say. I would say that's the biggest thing. It adds a different spin to it. It makes things different for everybody involved. And I think that's why it's going to be very interesting to see what happens when it gets down to it. Because in my opinion, you know, we're trying to figure out everything. Adam Silver has done a great job basically navigating this journey of trying to get back to the season. You know, he's done as well as he potentially as possibly could. And so, you know, all you can do is hope for the best. That's really all you can do is hope for the best and see if at the end of the day things will work out. I think that's going to be the big thing here that we have to look into. That's going to be the big thing here we have to see about. And that's going to be the big thing here that's going to be debated for the time being. We don't know if any championship contender is going to be affected by this. That's going to be the big thing here. And I think we're going to have to see if it actually ends up potentially changing the landscape of who could potentially win this year in the NBA. But also, I want to talk about the Players Coalition a little bit more. Because obviously this is a movement by players that was designed to be more open and address some of the systematic issues that we have within the country. They're trying to create a movement. They're trying to create a wave to allow people to understand what's going on here, why we feel the way we feel, why we're doing what we're doing, and everything like that. Obviously, we've heard about Kyrie talking about a proposed league. We don't know if it's true or not. We've had a player come out from the Brooklyn Nets and say that's not true. But we don't really know. Now listen, I'll read you a little article from Bleacher Report on it. And it says that Brooklyn Nets point guard Kyrie Irving reportedly wants no part of the NBA's plan to restart the season with the 22-team format in Orlando, Florida. And went as far to suggest that players should form their own league. According to Stefan Bondi of the New York Daily News, Irving said the Nets should skip the NBA's restart at Disney World during a group chat with his teammates. He also proposed the idea that the players start their own league. To be clear on this, Kyrie Irving has proposed to his teammates they should start their own league, and it's not necessarily in response to the bubble situation. And then Ryan Russillo on The Ringer added more context, saying in a tweet, Kyrie Irving telling other players they should start their own league is not new. He talked to his teammates about it this season based on what I was told. Katie was not enthusiastic. Take the new pod on it this morning. But then Taylor Rooks came back, which report said Irving did not tell the Nets that they should start their own league because of the league's bubble plan. Sources tell me Kyrie Irving never stated that the Nets should begin their own league in response to the bubble. I'm told after that report came out, he left the group chat. This comes after Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN reported Irving and Los Angeles Lakers guard Avery Bradley helped organize a player coalition in an effort to give a voice to anyone who is reluctant to speak out about the concerns with the league's restart plan, obviously, as a group. So they have a group that they can, say, listen, this isn't just a me thing, this is an us thing, and now I'm going to give you my thoughts on what us, the people, think. Irving is among those who are worried that starting the basketball again will take away from national focus on systematic racism and police brutality. What's more, there is also the fact that the COVID pandemic is still a grave concern in this country, and players will likely be away from their families for an extended period of time and face the risk of face injury risk with a shortened training camp. Wojnarowski and Andrews noted, Irving and Bradley helped organize player calls on Friday and Monday to discuss such issues. Portland Trailblazers guard Damian Lillard joined ESPN's Mike Greenberg as a part of the network's Return to Sports special Monday, and Irving said Irving raised some quality points. As Shams of The Athletic and Stadium shared, the NBA told its teams a central goal for our season to restart will be to utilize the NBA's platform to bring attention and sustain action to issues of social injustice. For now, the plan is to restart the season on July 30th with 22 teams playing 8 regular season games before a potential play-in tournament for the 8th seed and a traditional 16-team playoff format with the best-of-7 series. On Tuesday, Carnina reported players will have amenities such as lounge, pools, barbers, 24-hour VIP converge service, daily movies, and lawn games while in Orlando's campus. So that's that on that. And listen, I don't think, obviously, it's going to happen. But it's just interesting with everything that's happened to hear these stories come out, to see if somebody's going to replace who, if someone's going to change this, if someone's going to change that. Because you really don't know. You really don't know what people are thinking. You don't know what people want. You don't know what people are actually trying to do. And it's just going to be interesting to see what happens when it comes down to it. We'll see if the coalition ends up reaching their goals. And remember, the coalition has already sent a paper to Congress, over 1,500 athletes on there, talking about things and changes they want to the system. So they're clearly not just an NBA group. They're an activist group for change in America, which is why I think they're trying so hard to get more players on board, because they're trying to show people it's not just us, it's not just them, it's everybody involved in the sporting world who wants change, and we want to make a statement, and we want to make a change now and show it through any means necessary that we want change, and we want it very, very soon. And then our last story here before we get out of here for this segment, Troy Weaver, the vice president of basketball operations of the Oklahoma City Thunder, has agreed to become the Pistons' new GM on a reported 4-year contract. Per Adrian Wojnarowski, Weaver's key role in Oklahoma City's strong history of player personnel decisions made him one of the favorites from start of this search. Weaver is the 4th OKC executive under Sam Presti to leave for a GM job, including Rich Cho, Rob Hennigan, and Michael Winger. Troy Weaver will become the 9th current black GM in the NBA and will work with senior advisor Ed Stefanski running the Pistons. Weaver's roots to GM is groundbreaking, a high-profile AAU program to Syracuse assistant, NBA scout to a dozen years as executive for the Thunder. Weaver played a huge role in identifying several top Thunder draft prospects, including UCLA's Russell Westbrook at number 4 in the 2008 draft, when few considered him that elite of a prospect. This comes after Mark Spine said in the New York Times, reported June 15th, Weaver was a top choice for the position. James L. Edwards III of The Athletic reported former Atlanta Hawks GM Will Cox and Los Angeles assistant GM Mark Hughes and New Orleans assistant GM Brice and Graham were also candidates. And they were very serious candidates on top of that. The Pistons were looking for an experienced candidate who would report to senior advisor Ed Stefanski. And on top of that, it made it clear the Pistons saw that former players Chauncey Billups and Tayshaun Prince as candidates for the assistant general manager position, which allows them to desire to hire somebody with extensive experience. OKC hired Weaver, who was previously the director of player personnel and head scout for the Utah Jazz, in May of 2008. And he worked his way up, and he's been a part of the system of what made the Oklahoma City Thunder who they are. So, obviously, that's a great job for him. I'm glad for Troy Weaver. obviously it's great to see people moving up and really getting where they want to be and getting where they think they should be at the point of their lives where they're trying to make a name for themselves out here in the industry. So it's great to always see these come up stories, seeing someone's journey to being able to get to a top position in the league. You already know the coalition has already said they want more African American leaders and top executives in the league, and this is just a step forward in the right direction. So we'll have to see if this keeps up after this. But that's all we have here for the first segment. Coming up next, Ethan's going to join the show, and he'll talk about his thoughts on which side he's on. Is he on LeBron's side? Is he on Kyrie's side? And other things that are happening around the association. So stay tuned for all that here and more.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, and we have brought the very special guest, Ethan, back onto the show again to help talk about everything that's happening in the association right now. How you doing, Ethan?
Good, man. I just keep on coming back. Why stop now? I just keep on. Just, keep bringing me on, man. You know how much I care about basketball. It's my second love of the sport. Didn't play it, but I love it a lot. It's more fun. It's more fun to talk about basketball than football for me. Because basketball, there's still that sense of, like, I don't know everything and everything about basketball. Like I didn't play the game, so I don't know what it feels like to, be in a film room for basketball or do whatever. So it's just kind of more like, it feels more magical, I guess, to talk about basketball than football. Football is like, I kind of understand a lot of the underneath the game part, like more of the X's and O's sort of thing, or understand certain concepts. But what are we talking about, man? What you got me on here?
Yeah, man. So, Ethan, I just want to get your thoughts on what's going on in the NBA right now. Obviously, we have two sides right now. We have the Kyrie Irving, Avery Bradley player coalition side, the group that thinks that we shouldn't come back or we should not return to Orlando and have the season. And we have the LeBron James side and Patrick Beverley side, who believes that they should have the season and they can use that platform to raise awareness. Because the major issue here is that they feel like if we come back and play basketball, it's taking away from what's going on in the world today. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on which side are you on? Are you more on LeBron's side? Are you more on Kyrie and Avery's side? Like, where are you at right
now? I think personally that both sides have, I don't think both sides are wrong for what they want. And it's a tough decision to make. And it has a lot more implications than just you play the season or you don't. There are guys who are in contract years who need this playoff to really, submit, to really cement their stake in the claim. Because say if they don't play, they got to scratch the CBA, and it could potentially lose people some money. Like, Bam Adebayo is set to make probably $100 million in the offseason. If he doesn't play, that might really, really hinder his chances of making the money that he should be making. And I'm sure there's other players who are in similar situations where, guys like, I almost said Sebastian Telfair, but not Sebastian Telfair, but guys like, mid-tier guys. I'm losing the track of the name specifically who I remember.
Oh, somebody specific. I was about to say like an Evan Fournier type of player.
Yeah, someone like Evan Fournier where they may need to go ahead and get some off-season money, and this might really hurt them in the back end, and they may need to play more than what other people might think. And it's hard to look at it from a perspective of a fan because you see all these guys as multi-millionaire basketball players, and you're like, just go, like, if you don't want to play, then don't play. And, you have enough money, right? Like, so don't play. But I think it's just the principle of the matter is that it's not always that simple. There's a lot of things that the CBA has included, and it's just what really, really hurt the league at a certain point. And I don't think this is like, it's crazy to think Adam Silver has done a really, really great job navigating this COVID-19 process, probably better than any other commissioner in like pro sports. And I'd have to say, like, this is just probably his biggest challenge he's ever had as a commissioner. Like, I don't know what else could he have done. Like, this stretch is probably going to be talked about for like the next 10 years. Or like there's going to be books, there's going to be a documentary. Like, this is the craziest basketball has probably gotten since Sterling. Like, we don't really know if there's going to be a season. One, because of COVID. Now we've settled that the season is going to happen. Now, because of social, because of the injustices in society, and these players have valid reasons for feeling like, once it gets back to status quo of the NBA, we're just going to be talking about LeBron James and the title run, the title defenses, the who's hot now, who, like, just, the sports storylines, because people are deprived of sports. People are ready to talk sports again. People are tired of talking about off-season news and which part of the COVID process are certain sports in. They are ready to watch live sports, and basketball is going to be on the next forefront. Like, we already see it with UFC. UFC is really, really eating right now, and they are finding success in this format that they have created in Florida themselves, and now they're working on Fight Island and trying to get a private island for fighters and stuff like that. So I just think it's a real tough task. Personally, I'm like, if the players play, I'm going to watch. Like, I'm not going to be mad if they have to play. But I understand where Kyrie is coming from. And I think Kyrie is right to an extent. Like, I do think he's right. Players, once the season starts, it's not even just, like, it's going to be hard to make people care about social justice again. You can put Black Lives Matter all over your broadcast. You can have a whole segment in halftime dedicated to social injustices and educating people. People are just going to turn it off and wait till the game comes back on. They're not going to care. And it's not going to be the new hot thing in the news anymore. It's going to be title defenses. It's going to be players' performances. It's going to be this whole basketball summer camp scenario, what's happening in the camp. Like, it's going to be all of that 24/7 before it gets to social justice again. And they can't just go around wearing I Can't Breathe shirts again. It's not enough. And they know that. The players who are saying we can't play right now, they know that. And it's not just enough to donate money, like Austin Rivers says. It's going to be tougher than that because you're trying to keep people's attention on the task at hand. And just because you have money, there's been plenty of people are still donating. People are still protesting. Like, there's still a lot going on, but it's not being shown. So it's about making a statement. And that's why when you see the news gravitate to, destruction of property or burning buildings or looting, it's because it makes a statement. It sends a message. What did the Joker say? He said, it's not about the money. He said, it's about the message.
Yeah. I definitely get what you're saying, man. You're definitely right about what you're saying. And it's something that I think as the NBA is, trying to figure out what's going to happen, what the verdict's going to be at the end of the day with players, since they have till June, I believe, 24th, to make a final decision if they're going to actually play in the return of the season. One thing that I've thought about with the whole situation is, obviously there was a report that they said Kyrie Irving in the group chat said the players should do their own league. And so what I don't know if you heard it, what was your first reaction to hearing that? Because, Kyrie is the type of man who go outside the box. They said on, that Bleacher Report series that they have for basketball, Game of Thrones parody, they said on there, they said that he said it on there too, even though it was obviously a parody, but him actually going ahead and saying it's just like, oh, Kyrie's someone who's not afraid to go outside the box. So I want to know what you thought about that.
Well, I mean, Kyrie has said this before this even happened. He's mentioned this to other guys before. And that was reported a while ago in the season. And, apparently KD wasn't super thrilled about the idea. But this isn't anything new for Kyrie to mention. So it's only new because I guess it got lost in translation throughout everything else happening when he first mentioned stuff like this or first things like this got reported on. But, it's an interesting concept. It'd be really hard because you would have to essentially make players invest in themselves. So, you'd have to be a share company kind of thing and not, you commish your own league in a way of, how it's usually commissioned. You're not going to have millionaire backers because you want your own league, so you want it to be player ran. So that means if you're going to have players run it, they're going to have to cough up the dough to be able to afford to run it. And that's a lot of money and a lot of capital. And that's just one aspect too. You can't really, realistically it'd be too hard because not everybody ends their contract at the same time. So there's just no way they're going to let you play in a players-only league or whatever the case may be, players-ruled league, owned league, and play in the NBA. It's just not going to happen. So it's something that realistically just is not in the cards, but it's an interesting concept. And maybe they can do something on a smaller scale, I don't know, kind of like tournament style basketball with some of the better players in the league, and do something like that.
Kind of like the basketball tournament that they have, that the basketball tournament is what it's called.
Yeah, a little bit like that. Or instead of the Drew League, it would just be, it would kind of defeat the purpose of teams and NBA, team building. But if they had their own pickup league and it was televised and you draft how in the All-Star game people draft the top players in the league, but if they had a pickup version of that where you put in top 30, top 50 players in the NBA or whoever wants to participate, and you just draft those guys who you want on your team. And then you just go play ball, televised. It's professionally ran, and there's it's like a play-in tournament, or it's seeded, so the prize is cash money or whatever. I'd watch it. For sure. It wouldn't be as, I guess, it doesn't have the NBA prestige because it's pickup, right? There's no salary caps. How do you ensure that players get fairly paid and compensated for, and entertainment deals, all that? It would just kind of feel a little bit below the professional line. So that's why it'd be tough to really pull something like that off and really make it successful on a more broader professional scale, or let's not use professional, on a broader scale that will appeal to the layman or the audience that's not a super basketball freak.
Yeah, I get that for sure. Because the only thing also too is, like I said, we're still in the middle of the pandemic. So if they did do that, I'm assuming we're still not going to have any fans, right? Because that's obviously the concern. So obviously they have the capital as players to get their product, if they did create their own league, on television potentially. Remember, they were able to get their own 2K thing. Now, it may be a lower scale, but they have the capital probably to get it on there, probably get some decent production work and et cetera. But it's just more about making it all come together because, listen, a lot of people view the Players Coalition as, a good cause. They're already sending documents to Congress. They're making all types of things. That's what they're promoting. That's what they want to do. Where obviously who are playing in the league, obviously since they will be gearing up for the season, they'll still be monitoring, noticing what's happening outside, but still focusing on the task at hand. Because if we don't have the season, like you said, the CBA can be ripped up by the owners, and that would make things very hard for the players. And then secondly, Toronto will be a 2-time champion or 2-year champion. And I don't know if people want that. So, we'll have to see how really, a lot of things turn out in that regard, because it's going to be very interesting next few weeks, because like I said, June 24th to make a decision if players are going to go, which players are going to actually play. And then training camp, I believe, is in July between after the 11th, because I think 9 through 11, that's when they start going to Orlando to actually suit up and start training camp and everything. So it's definitely going to be an interesting period of time in between now and then to actually see just what happens. And I'm sure we're going to be very intrigued to see. We might be surprised potentially by maybe a potential player who doesn't decide to go. Because as far as we know, we don't really have any major stars that are not going that is healthy. Kyrie would be considered major, but he's not healthy. So we understand why he's not playing. But we don't have anybody else who's considered super, a superstar who isn't considering playing at all. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when it comes to that. But that's all we have right here for this segment. Stay tuned.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. We still have Ethan here with us, still staying strong with us to talk about everything that's happening right now in the association. And Ethan, to continue off our conversation from last segment, I wanted to get your opinion. So obviously we know there will be players that won't come back and play in Orlando. So my question is to you, do you think that could potentially change who we think could win the championship this year? Because obviously for the Lakers, Avery Bradley and Dwight they're not going to play. That's all we know right now, but they look like they're not going to play. So would that affect their chances and other teams' chances? Because you're still going to have LeBron, you're still going to have AD, Clippers are still going to have Kawhi. Every team's still going to have their major star, but those major core rotation players or other players, they may not come back. So do you think the loss of those players will change the championship outlook?
Well, it's possible. I just don't know if they really aren't going to play or not. Because I feel like at the end of the day, all the players have to come to the decision. And, of course, if they don't want to play, they don't have to come at the end of the day. But I think majority of the players will come into a vote and say they were going to play. And I think that is what the goal is at the end of the day, is do what the players all think for the majority is best and kind of work that way there. And if they still have issues, individually, they can take it upon themselves to not participate. It may rub people the wrong way at the end of the day. Like if LeBron's camp is not a fan of Avery Bradley saying that, hey, I'm not trying to play, or Dwight Howard actually really does and won't play, that may rub LeBron in the camp the wrong way. They might mess up what they have going on for the foreseeable future. But I think that as a whole basketball entity, I think it'll be okay, because if it was for COVID-19, you can't really get mad at them as much as you like. And it's weird to say, I don't feel like you can get mad at them for any part of this situation, but people definitely would be like, "Oh man, suck it up and go play." They wouldn't be like that if this was all just for COVID-19. You know, it's weird how, racial injustices ends up becoming a point of, we can still play and still, fight the cause, to, players are looking at this objectively kind of and like, I don't think we can, because we'll just be pacifying the issue. And it's tough because, guys in the league typically are pretty much open-minded about how to handle racial injustice, but it's never affected their dollars before, right? It's never affected the money. And they're already in a weird time, right? They're already in a time that could have affected the money, and they just got it off the ground floor. They're not even in Orlando yet. They don't even know. They haven't even gone to camp. Mm-hmm. And, there's divisions within teams' ranks. Not like one group feels this way, another group feels this way. And, like within teams, players within their own teams are not agreeing on some of this stuff. And that's troubling to me, and not troubling as in a way that I feel worried about their, how they work and function, but it's more just like, that's the biggest issue to me, is that it's not going to matter when it comes to, like, for winning, because nobody cares about win percentage or, like, who's the favorite now. There's no telling. They haven't played basketball in 3 months. Teams could look totally different. The Rockets could just be super hot and go win, like, off of small ball basketball, for all I care. Like, you just have no idea. You have no idea what the Lakers are going to look like. You have no idea what the Clippers are going to look like. Favorites at this point are out the window. I'm sure there's some semblance of favorites based off of just roster strength. But until we know who is playing and who is not, there won't be any solid roster strength. We won't know. For all we know, this is Milwaukee's chance. For all we know, Zion might get it first. We don't. It'd be the most unreal start of a season. Imagine Zion walking up in there, and the team is fuego. The team is unreasonably hot, and they go win a championship. I just wouldn't even. He might be the GOAT. That man comes in, plays 20-something games, and goes to win a championship. That would be insane. But I'm here for it, man. I'm ready. Bring it.
Yeah, that would be absolutely.
That's the problem, man. I'm so ready for basketball. I want to watch it so bad, but I also like they have some solid points. I can still wait. I can play 2K. I can hold off.
Speaking of 2K, so I don't know if you knew, but what did you think if they actually do pump in 2K crowd noise to the games?
I don't want to hear 2K crowd noise in the game. I want to hear the players talk mess. I want to hear the fouls be called. I want to hear all the communication on the defensive end, the screen. I want to hear all that stuff, man. I'm ready. I'm ready to hear what basketball sounds like to them. I'm ready to hear the unfiltered, the nitty gritty. I want to get a different broadcast on ESPN2 that has the swear words. I want it all. I don't know if it's going to happen, though.
Yeah, they might as well. They ain't got nothing better to do. I mean, especially since the games are probably going to be all in order. So they might as well do 2 broadcasts because, you don't have any noise. Players, they be saying a lot of stuff out there on the court. So definitely see what you're saying there. Also, Ethan, so last segment you were talking about Bam Adebayo and stuff, but I wanted to get your opinion on the fact that a lot of young players especially from, I believe, the 2017 draft class I think he was a part of, that all the star players from that class, Tatum, De'Aaron Fox, Bam, all of them have went to the league and said, hey, if we're coming back, are we going to get an insurance policy? And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Like, obviously, you would think for something like this, it would be kind of necessary for the league to give them an insurance policy. And all these players that went to them are due for big contracts. Like you said, Bam Adebayo to do almost $400 million. So how do you feel about the entire insurance policy? How much do you have an opinion? How much they should maybe get in an insurance policy? Because I can understand for a young up and coming star, if something happens to them that could be career threatening or harm them long term, the protection is probably one of the number one things that will help them come back and play.
Right. And this is the future of your league you're looking at here. Bam, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell. I mean, Devin Booker already got paid, but guys like that, those are your future stars of the league. When the LeBron generation, 2000 forward through really even maybe even 2007 and back now are kind of on the back end of their careers and on their way out. The new generation is here to stay. Like, these are the new guys that you have to essentially fight forward for and make sure you keep them appeased and look like you care about what they have to offer the league at this point. So you kind of have to do things to make them engage, make them want to play in your league. And not to say they can just drop and leave and go somewhere else. I mean, technically they can. They can go play overseas, or they can go do something else, even start their own league. But no, insurance policies make sense, right? You can't, this is the most unprecedented amount of time or event that we've had since probably 9/11 in American history. And 9/11 didn't affect sports as much as this has in such a quick amount of time. So insurance is necessary. All these other major sporting networks, these TV networks, these guys who are basically just losing money, I'm sure they're looking at their contracts and looking at insurances and things like that too. So this isn't anything new. This isn't some crazy thing that people haven't done before. People are still currently looking at insurances right now for stuff like this, because you couldn't have predicted this. This could change a whole lot of things in the future that no one ever could have thought of. So insurance is necessary.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, like I said, it's important for the future of our league to make sure they're going to be covered just in case. Because remember, you're rushing players back. You don't know where their bodies are. Rush them through a training camp. Then you tell them we need you to go hard because you got playoffs on the line and playoff seeding on the line. So obviously, it's been very important for them to take the necessary precautions to protect themselves. And then this thing I talked to you about this during the break about NBA players will wear a smart ring at Disney World, and I've already discussed to you what basically the ring does. It helps them predict COVID-19 symptoms up to 3 days in advance at 90% accuracy. So what are your thoughts on this smart ring that they're going to give the players who do come to Orlando?
When was it why hasn't this been more widely spoken about, this device? Because I haven't seen it. Maybe it's because COVID-19 has taken a backseat to everything else that's been going on throughout the world. But where is this device and what does it look like? How does it exist? This feels like this is something that people would really want to invest their money into or invest their business in or things like that to get back on the forefront and be able to, if they're going to open up the country day by day, week by week, sounds like something that would help alleviate a lot of the issues with opening up the country again. So the NBA, remember the NBA caught a lot of flack for when Rudy Gobert got diagnosed with coronavirus. It was essentially something that they got the whole team, both teams tested, and they got all those tests in less than 24 hours while people were the virus was just freshly new in the American mindset. And we're like, how do you get tested this fast? Testing is not available. Really, it wasn't available at all at that moment in time. It's very rare to have as much testing as they did. And the NBA caught a little bit of flack for that. And I'm sure Adam Silver is very, very cautious about this. And that's why he's taking so long, because he doesn't want to take a bunch of tests from other people. So this ring was probably kept under the radar for quite a bit of time. It's
they didn't even mention it till today. I didn't even find out till a couple minutes before the podcast. So obviously I don't know if this was maybe leaked to help maybe some players like, oh, we're getting tracked to see we got COVID, man. you go ahead and tell them, oh man, you got symptoms, man. 3 days before you actually got to take the test, and it's like, oh, I guess I'm gonna be quarantined for about 14 days, and et cetera, et cetera. But literally, we could get obviously deeper into this because obviously this could be a bigger issue overall because, well, what about healthcare workers? What about essential workers? What about teachers? Why don't they have this? Why are the NBA players getting it? Because let's not forget, I believe one of the issues coming back from the whole hiatus was the NBA was a little nervous about going ahead and just buying a bunch of tests because of the fact that tests weren't as available to the public. So they didn't want it to seem like, well, how can the NBA players or the NBA just get thousands and thousands of tests like it's nothing, but we're struggling to get tests. So obviously Adam Silver's been having to navigate this and like, okay, well, let's not release too much if let's not do anything too fast. But obviously, this will cause a slight, I guess, sort of kind of uproar maybe from some people who see this. Because I'm trying to also figure out either where they get this technology from. When was this created? When was this in production? You know what I'm saying? Like, when was this even about to be created? We never heard about anything till now about it.
It's
so I'm just kind of like, huh?
Yeah, like that just came out of the blue. Like, you had to tell me about this. You posed this on me, and I'm just starstruck. Like, how? What?
Yeah, I guess it just shows, man. There's always those secrets out there that you don't know about. It shows because they have this ready. Because they might do it for football for all we know. They might give it to them. They might give it to the NCAA. They might not do it. They be like, oh no, we good. But all the professional leagues, they might do it for them too. And it's just like, okay, well, how much is it expensive? How much they cost? How can I get one? If it's that good of technology, if we have the capability of being able to see it and know it ahead of time. But that's all the time we have for this segment. Ethan, I want to say thank you for coming on, giving your thoughts and opinions on these subjects and topics that we've been talking about today, with the whole league restarting, all the issues, players coming together, deciding if they want to come or don't come back to start the season. I really appreciate you having you on, man.
No problem, man. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. But yeah, if you want to stay tuned for more basketball content, stay right here.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. Last segment we had Ethan on. Ethan helped, just giving his thoughts. It's good to have another opinion on the show, giving his thoughts on everything around the association. Made some really good points. That's why I enjoy having him on here, giving his expertise on the basketball situation, the basketball world. So obviously that's really cool to have him on here and talk about everything that is happening in the league, because obviously a lot of things are happening in the league, and everybody has an opinion, everybody has thoughts, everybody has a perception of what's going on and how they should handle it, what would be best, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how everything kind of ends up and everything turns out at the end of the day. But now we can continue on. So obviously last segment we brought out the new smart technology the NBA brought out, which was a ring to help track players and all their stuff. But there's also a deeper plan into what happens, and we're going to talk about it. It's from CNBC. They posted it's called Inside the NBA's Plan to Use Smart Technology and Big Data to Keep Players Safe. And they're going to go into detail about all the things that they're doing while they're going to be in Disney or Orlando to help keep the players safer. So we're going to get to this article. This is very interesting. And, I think a lot of people are going to be in an uproar because they're trying to figure out why don't other businesses have this technology for their people. But, and listen, you're entitled to your own opinion on that. It just happens. The NBA, I guess, happens to have the money to do it. And they're just like, listen, we're going to do what we got to do. And I'm sure Disney probably proposed this in the plan to have them. They knew, hey, if we want to stand out, we need to create things ourselves to help them want to come here and do their games here at our resort. So we're going to have to see what happens. We're going to have to see how it goes. So, starting the article. As the NBA heads to Disney World in Orlando, the league is making available a host of technological bells and whistles to both players and staff. According to the NBA's health and safety memo for the restart of the season, which was obtained by CNBC, residents will receive a smart ring or a Disney Magic Band, an individual pulse oximeter, and a smart thermometer to help monitor and reduce the spread of coronavirus. The league is also investigating the implementation of wearing a wearable alarm to help players and staff adhere to social distancing. Here's a breakdown of the key health and safety protocols the NBA plans to adopt when the players head to Orlando later this month in preparation for the restarted season. The NBA Disney plan includes 22 teams traveling to Orlando to play games in what is being described as the bubble, which you see in multiple sports. Boxing isn't doing it with fights that you see. There's a bubble that you have to enter to help reduce coronavirus exposure. At Disney's Wide World of Sports complex, players that decide to participate will be subjected to extensive testing, quarantines from their families, and strict rules pertaining to social behavior. The league memo, which is more than 100 pages long, outlines its plan to keep players safe and tools that it will be utilizing in order to do so. Mark Cuban said, "I think we're going to be able to pull this off on CNBC's Squawk Box on Wednesday. We are doing everything possible to keep people safe, and I think it will work." So now we're going to get into the wearable smart ring, which is capable of predicting COVID-19 symptoms up to 3 days in advance with 90% accuracy. One of the tools that the NBA will use with its players is a smart ring that players will wear during their time at Disney World. The ring can measure body temperature, respiratory functions, and heart rate, which are all things that can signal whether a person is sick or not. All players and essential staff will be given the option to participate in health monitoring using the rings. The titanium rings reportedly made by Aurora are capable of predicting COVID-19 symptoms up to 3 days in advance, as I've already said. The data will be studied and accessed by the University of Michigan to help generate overall wellness assessment of each person. The memo said that players will have full access to all data collected on them, but this team staff will only have access in circumstances where the player's illness's probability score indicates he may be at higher risk or showing signs of the coronavirus. And then we're going to get into the Disney Magic Band, which is another thing that they're implementing to the players if they come to Orlando. Players will be given access to the Magic Band that will be required to be worn at all times, except during workouts and games. The Disney Magic Band will act as a hotel room key and let players check in and out of security points and coronavirus screenings. It's similar to the device of the same name that Disney World guests can use for access to hotels and payments for foods and gifts inside the park. Magic Bands can also help the league with contact tracing. The league is investigating a way to use the bands to know if a player is diagnosed with COVID-19 has come into contact with another player. Disney will be prohibited from accessing health information of players, but Disney will be alerted to player health status for the purposes of enforcing these protocols. For further safety assurance, the league said it will be investigating the use of its access control software that utilizes the Magic Band to provide them access and entry into the campus facilities. For example, when a player arrives at a security checkpoint, their Magic Band would display green or red depending on their health status to allow them to deny or deny them, which would be interesting. Imagine walking up somewhere and you get red, and you'd be like, I feel fine. Can't come in here, bub. Everybody, but based off what that ban says, you could affect people, so you need to go home and stay there. And we're going to alert the entire NBA, and they're going to be in your room in 30 minutes, and they're going to take you to get coronavirus testing at this very second. Oh, man, that's going to be, that would be interesting. You really think you good, and it's like, is it going to be green? Is it red? Let me try again. Let me try it. You know what I'm saying? They will be trying, I swear I'm good. Yeah, man, but continue on to the article. Smart medical devices. All residents will also be given an individual oximeter to take blood oxygen saturation levels daily, and a smart thermometer that can take and record the individual's temperature. Players will be given detailed information on how to analyze the results, which obviously I'm assuming is to help them know, okay, yeah, so if this result says this, then you may be a little bit going up here. So if you start seeing this number go up, you might need to go ahead and get tested, get checked, get isolated. Basically, I'm sure when they get here, or when the players get to Orlando, they're going to go through a very extensive session of information of everything they need to know. They'll probably be given handouts, papers. They'll probably be just a lot of things will be given to them to help them understand everything that's going on, all the protocols, all the technology that they're getting, all the information that they're getting to help give them what they need to do so they can get out there and be successful and stay healthy and not potentially infect other people potentially if they did end up catching COVID-19. They also have a social distancing alarm. Physical distancing is another key area the NBA is focusing on. The league says that to help promote adherence to physical distancing rules, all teams and league staff will be required to wear a small device on their credentials that will serve as an alarm that will set off an audio alert when within 6 feet of another person for longer than 5 seconds. The memo said the alarm can detect allowable pairs of people, such as teammates, a physician, or a patient. It won't set off the alarm, and players will be given an option to wear this alarm, but it's not a requirement. Some players calling foul. This is a very interesting part. With so much data being collected, players may have concerns about the use of this data. The league says that the information collected will be deleted within 4 weeks following the 2019-2020 season. Opting out isn't an option, with the memo saying that any player or staffer who refuses to undergo such daily health monitoring will be prohibited from engaging in group activities until the monitoring is accomplished or may be required to leave the campus permanently. It's important to note that this plan was also approved by the NBA Players Association, so this isn't just a NBA thing. The Players Association agreed to this, so they basically said, we think this is okay, we think this is fine. In the recent days, there's been a public and private conversation taking place among players about this plan and its benefit and drawbacks, many acknowledging the challenges it will involve. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said he is not sympathetic. He's sympathetic. I don't want to say not. Okay, that would have made him sound like a bad person. He is sympathetic, people. He is sympathetic. And players that will not be punished if they choose not to attend. It will entail enormous sacrifice for everybody involved, he said in an interview with ESPN on Monday. Listen, it's not the ideal situation trying to find out our new normal in the middle of a pandemic. I can understand how the players feel. It's not for them. And that's the end of the article. So as you can tell, there's a lot of information there. And there's a lot of, things that are being discussed. Obviously, based off all these details, you can clearly tell that there's a lot going on and there's a lot that's happening. And we'll have to see what happens. I think the NBA, obviously, as I said, the NBA is doing anything they can to handle and deal with the situations the best way they can, and to get through whatever is happening the best way they can as well, because they understand what's going on. They understand what's going on. It can be wild. They understand what's going on is a lot, and they understand that not everybody is going to be probably in approval of it or okay with it. So they're just trying to do everything they can to make sure everybody's on the same page. Whoever does come, give information that is needed. This is actually very widely technological. This is going to be very interesting. It's almost like a social experiment in a way, if you think about it, what they're doing, and we'll just have to see how it all works out at the end of the day. But we're going to go into this story as Nets Kevin Durant calls out Kendrick Perkins for sellout comments about Kyrie Irving. Obviously, what happened was Kendrick Perkins said about Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, right now, you are the distraction. You are the distraction. It's crazy to me because you come out and you do something simply without talking to President Chris Paul or consulting with Michelle. Let's sit out without a plan. It makes zero sense, and I totally disagree. So then KD came out and said he's a sellout, and then retweeted a video of Perkins airballing a jumper. Now, obviously, as we know, last week Irving made a plea on a Zoom call with a lot of players trying to tell them to sit out for the upcoming season. Players, obviously are able to opt out of the season without discipline, so it's okay. Some people think no one's listening to Kyrie, and that's why some people think he's causing a lot of drama, because they feel like, well, no one's listening to you, so why create these situations, or why create this problem with everything that's going on? Obviously, Kyrie and Durant are out for injuries right now, so obviously not going to be playing, but, it's interesting to see what happens, because obviously, as we know, Kevin Durant and Kendrick Perkins, this isn't the first time they've gotten into it on social media. We don't know if their relationship is somewhat deteriorating a little bit. Obviously these things kind of happen sometimes in the professional world of sports. We just hope for the best, and we just got to see how it all ends up and how it happens. So we're just going to have to see, really, listen, KD's not afraid to call people out. And we know that about KD. And Kendrick's not afraid to defend himself about things he believes in things as well. So we'll have to see. So we'll have to really see how everything works out and how everything turns out when it gets down to it. As, like I said, you could see a lot of people have thoughts. A lot of people have opinions. A lot of people have different things that are happening during this whole pandemic situation, how to bring the league back and everything. Everybody has a lot of opinion, a lot of emotions involved and everything. And, we just got to get through it, and we just got to see how it goes at the end of the day. So we'll just keep, sitting and seeing, and we'll see how everything works out when it's all said and done. So we'll just have to keep doing it from there. So, but yeah, and lastly, Dwight Howard released a statement. I'm not going to read you the whole statement because we don't have enough time, but I'll give you a main part of his statement about the coalition as well, about what's happening and why he's on the side of Kyrie Irving and Avery Bradley. Is he basically just said, our main objective is to raise awareness and gain transparency. Many of our fellow players are afraid to voice their concerns and are continuing to follow along with what they believe they have to. He's just saying that, listen, a lot of people have a lot of things to say. A lot of people feel very uncomfortable. A lot of people feel like, well, I can't speak out. People are going to be against me. I might lose something. And he's just saying, listen, that's why we're doing what we're doing, while we're on the front line, so we can be that voice for the people. We can be the voice of the voiceless. And so we'll have to see how it all works out. Like I said, it's going to be a very interesting couple of weeks. Probably one of the most interesting weeks and interesting times in NBA history, in my opinion. But that's all we have right here on the podcast. Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast. Don't forget to follow us on social media and leave a review. Don't forget, we're going to be back again next week, so don't forget to stay tuned for that. We're going to drop another episode for you guys and keep you updated on everything happening in all of the association. So thank you. Have a good day.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.